Okay, so let's do a few more examples just to really drive the point home and make sure that we actually understand what's going on here. So very similar to what we had before, the same form, x squared plus 2x minus 8. And okay, if we take a look at it here, you can organize it how you like, but we're really looking for something or two numbers that multiply to -8, but also add to 2. So this is what I call the product sum method, and I usually kind of try to keep it organized, keep a chart over here. So product, I'm looking for what multiplies to -8, and sum, what adds to 2. So when you're first starting out, it's absolutely fine to list out, all of your options. You're trying to think first off what multiplies to -8. And then from there, you can do trial and error and see what actually will add to 2. So you can list them all out. We've got 1 and -8. That means that -1 and +8 would also work. 2 and -4, -2 and 4. And that should be it. As we look through, we'll just kind of go through our checklist here. If I look at it, 1 plus -8, well, that doesn't really add to 2. -1 plus 8, that doesn't work either. 2 plus -4, we're getting closer because that does give us -2. So if you recognize that you are getting close, it might just be a matter of switching the signs around a little bit. So if we look at this last one, -2 and 4, that one actually does work. So that means that we're trying to factor this. So we'll start out setting it up like this. Now, just to emphasize, the reason why, in this case, we're trying to get x squared. So if I put x's in both these places, when I double distribute or FOIL, that's where I'm going to get my x squared from. So it's not just a matter of coincidence that we do this every time. There's a purpose and a reason for it. So we're doing x times x. That gives us this x squared here. Okay, and then the other two pieces, we put -2 in and 4. And this is our answer, but again, it's not just a coincidence that we're just taking -2 and 4 and putting them in there randomly. So this is where I would like you to check your work. So that's our answer, but remember, using double distribute, this x minus 2 times x plus 4, that is equivalent to x squared plus 2x minus 8, even though it might not look like it. It's kind of in disguise here. So if you can check your work, I want to make that a little more clear. X times x, I get x squared. Perfect, that's what I wanted. Then here, we've got x times 4 and -2 times x. Great. And lastly, I have -2 times 4, which is -8. So you can see it's looking very, very similar to this right now. If I just work it out a little bit here, really 4x minus 2x, that's 2x. That's where it's coming from. Okay, so as long as it works out where after you double distribute, you get back to the original, that means that you did do it correctly. Okay, so that's that example. Just make sure that you do check your work. Okay, and let's take a look at one final example down here. You might notice there's something a little bit different about it. Now, don't let that scare you. It's not too difficult. So we spent a lot of time doing this already. We always looked for what we called the GCF. So really, we should have been doing that the whole time, but I didn't mention it just to get you comfortable using the product sum method first. So it's a little bit different because if I were to try and get 2x squared, I couldn't just simply put x and x here, right? X times x, that doesn't give me 2x squared. So I need to think a little bit more about this. Now, the good thing about it is that the first step when you're doing these, and like we've talked about before, is to look for the greatest common factor. So if there's something that you can pull out of there, go ahead and do it. So I'm looking at 2, 20, and 32. Well, the biggest thing that I'm able to divide out from all of those is the number 2. So since we've done this before, I'll just go quickly through that. I'll pull a 2 out. So I'm basically dividing each of these by 2, which leaves x squared left. -20 divided by 2, and 32 divided by 2. Now, this piece, and let me highlight that piece, that should look more similar to what we've been doing before. So that 2 hanging out there, it just stays on the outside there because we needed to factor that out. And now we have something that we can work with using the product sum method. Okay, so I'm just worried about the highlighted part. Essentially, I'm going to look for what, I'll make my chart, what multiplies to 16 and adds to negative 10. So like I said, when you're first starting out, it might be helpful to list all of your options out. But if you're okay doing it in your head or just kind of thinking about it and then writing it down, that's absolutely fine too, because we'll have quite a few options here. So let's do, we have 1 and 16, but remember, 2 negatives also make a positive, so we can also do -1 and -16. Let's do 2 and 8, -2 and -8. And then we should also have 4 and 4, and -4 and -4. Okay, so we'll go through it. I've got 1 plus 16, doesn't exactly work there. -1 plus -16, well, that's good because I'm getting negative here, but it's not -10. So use patterns like that to help you too. I'm looking for things to add to a negative number, so I do need to use some negative numbers in here, which automatically you should know that I can cross off these ones. Those won't work. So -2 plus -8, hey, there we go. That gives us -10. And I don't need to bother checking the rest because I already found one that worked. Okay, now this 2 on the outside, it stays on the outside, and I'll explain why it does as we go through this here. But then I'll just continue like we've been doing. So I am looking for x squared here, so I'm really worried about the highlighted part. So x times x gives me x squared, and that's why I placed those there. I already found that -2 and -8 work. Okay, so I'm assuming that's my answer. I factored everything out. There's nothing left to factor. Hopefully that gives me back to the original. So let's check. You can start here where you do double distribute before worrying about the 2. If you want to put the 2 in there first, you can. But I just kind of typically work this way. So I've got x squared and -8x minus 2x plus 16. Then, just like I did before, let's go ahead and simplify this piece. -8x minus 2x, that's really -10x, so let's place that there. Okay, well, I have this piece, that's promising, but then don't forget that you have that 2 out in the front. So you're going to want to multiply that back in. Let's keep it that color. All right, so that gives us 2x squared minus 20x plus 32. There you go. We got back to the original, and that's why we have to take that 2 out and leave it there. So we'll see what happens later on, and we'll go more into these problems and extend our learning a little bit in class the next day.